once was a sweet little girl who lived in a village on the edge of a forest. Her grandmother had given her a riding hood made of red velvet, and the little girl wore it so often that everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother asked her to take a freshly baked cake to her grandmother, who lived on the other side of the forest. Little Red Riding Hood's mother reminded her to go straight to grandmother's house and not to stray from the path. Crossing the forest was dangerous because there was a big bad wolf lurking there. Little Red Riding Hood had gone a short way when she saw some pretty flowers growing beside the path. She decided to pick a few to take to grandmother. As she was picking the flowers, the big bad wolf suddenly jumped out of the shadows. Not wanting to frighten Little Red Riding Hood away, the wolf tipped his hat and pretended to be neighborly.
"Where are you going, little girl?"
asked the wolf in his nicest voice. Little Red Riding Hood was fooled by the wolf's charm. So although her mother always warned her not to talk to strangers, she politely answered the wolf.
"I am going to grandmother's house to take her the cake my mother baked for her."
"How lucky your grandmother is. Does she live nearby?"
inquired the sly wolf.
"It is on the path just at the edge of the forest," she said.
"It was a pleasure talking to you, but now I must be on my way. Have a nice day."
"Thank you, Mr. Wolf,"
said Little Red Riding Hood.
"And I hope you have a nice day as well."
While Little Red Riding Hood continued to pick flowers, the big bad wolf ran ahead to grandmother's house. When the wolf arrived, he could see grandmother resting in bed. He called gently at the door, and grandmother, thinking it was Little Red Riding Hood, said sweetly,
"Come in."
When the wolf came inside, he quickly tried to grab grandmother and devour her, but she got away and ran screaming from the house. The wolf did not run after grandmother because he knew that Little Red Riding Hood would soon arrive. The wolf jumped into bed and put on grandmother's bonnet and closed his eyes. It wasn't long before Little Red Riding Hood came walking up the path carrying her basket and the freshly picked flowers. She gave a cheerful
"Good day"
to the squirrel sitting on a tree stump near the path. Little Red Riding Hood knocked at the door. Speaking in a high voice to sound like grandmother, the wolf said sweetly, "Come in." Little Red Riding Hood came inside. As she approached the bed, she saw that grandmother had changed very much.
"Grandmother, what big eyes you have,"
said Little Red Riding Hood. "The better to see you with, my dear," said the big bad wolf in his little old lady voice.
"Grandmother, what big ears you have,"
said Little Red Riding Hood. "The better to hear you with, my dear."
"Grandmother, what big teeth you have,"
said Little Red Riding Hood. "The better to eat you with," said the wolf in his big bad wolf voice. The wolf jumped out of bed and tried to grab Little Red Riding Hood. But Little Red Riding Hood was much quicker than the wolf thought, and she dashed out the door just as the real grandmother was returning to her house with the woodsman carrying an axe. The woodsman quickly subdued the big bad wolf, threw him over his shoulder, and carried him deep into the forest. Little Red Riding Hood had learned her lesson. She promised grandmother that she would never talk to strangers ever again. The wolf learned his lesson too, and he never came out of the forest to bother people walking on the path ever again.